The body slam incident of October 25th of last year was caused by Kent Hovind's intentionally provoking and escalating my anger by refusing to turn off the recorder despite my right and my objection. I did not consent to being recorded. Rather, he held the phone over my head so I couldn't reach it, smiled, and watched me get angrier and angrier. This is the opposite of what a loving husband would do if he were genuinely seeking to reconcile and work things out with his wife. The motive, again, is to use my anger to discredit my story of cover-up, abuse, and cult behavior in this ministry.
And I'd like to respond to all these things. She said I body slammed her. I did not body slam her.
Respond to that.
Okay. Well, Cindy, I
Let's
didn't.
not get heated together.
Well,
Our
right.
goal is to
She several days later went to the chiropractor and told him she got body slammed. So he then wrote a report and said, this looks like the damage done from a body slam. Well, she told him that.
Yeah.
I told her I was recording. I wasn't hiding. I was trying to leave the house. She blocked me in, yelling and screaming at me. It's all on audio tape. I said, Cindy, I've been told I have to record this when you do this. Please, I want to go. And this was all her. And I've told her since then. She said, would you pay my medical bill $2,000? I said, Cindy, yes, if you'll admit I didn't body slam you, and I didn't.
We don't have to push that because
Okay,
God,
that's just
God knows what happened.
right.
And
But see,
I don't.
see, if she publishes this 20-minute,
Maybe you don't either.
I do. If she
Well, I'm
publishes,
just saying,
hang on, I'm talking
but
now.
God doesn't.
If she publishes this 20-minute thing, which she's welcome to do, I'm going to have to respond to every accusation. I did not body slam her. There's no evidence that I body slammed her. She told the chiropractor I did, and then he put it in the report. This looks like a body slam. Well, falling on the ground looks like a body slam.
Known as when she stopped hoping that I would be a mediator or some sort.
Okay. Well, we will slice it up into smaller slices, but since she brought so many things to the table for the body slam incident, I did not, but I said, Cindy, I will pay half the medical bill, $1,000, if you will sign a paper saying I didn't body slam you. She has refused, so she must really think I did.
Well, I asked her, I said, before the Holy Spirit, do you believe Kent body slammed you? She says, absolutely.
Okay, ask me.
Before the Holy Spirit, did you do any force to cause her to accelerate the speed to the floor?
I did not body slam her. I was still pushing her off of me. She was attacking me. I was defending myself, trying to hold. She said clearly, it's on the recording. I'm going to break that phone, use curse words, and flush it down the toilet.
Yeah.
I said, Cindy, I've been told I have to record this. I'm just simply trying to leave. Would you get out of my way? So no.
And I told Cindy, I said, Cindy, you got to drop this.
Just drop
And
it.
I told Kent, I said, Kent, you got to drop this.
Well, she brings it up again. I didn't.
know.
Okay, I would not have brought it up.
Because God will deal with it.
And I'm still willing tonight, right now. I'll take her to dinner, give her $1,000 if she'll sign that paper to get one item off the table. Half the medical bill.
Well, you can't ask her to sign something.
Well, if she really feels that, okay, then,
Yeah.
okay,
But
we'll see judgment day.
no, God can judge us in a few minutes.
Well, yeah,
if
yeah.
he wants.
Well, like I told her,
Every day is a judgment day.
tell everybody, I have studied a little bit, actually quite a bit, karate and judo. And if I would body slammed her, she'd still be sleeping. Okay. So, okay.
All right, Dr. Hovind, since you insist on slandering me continuously, here goes the truth. If you don't recant, it will go public. How dare you insinuate that I would make up a story about you body slamming me? How dare you insinuate I would lie to a doctor? Do you remember the night in bed where you tenderly said sorry for being too rough with me? And I accepted your apology and fell into your arms as usual. I had no reason or motive to make up a story like that. And I told you clearly, in writing, that I had no intention of making that story public, that I didn't need to tell anybody. You, sir, are the one who took your little recording and went around campus playing it for everybody on campus and falsely accusing your wife. I knew it was an isolated incident. You had never physically hurt me before, although you had certainly verbally, emotionally, and spiritually abused the heck out of me for a year at that point. But I knew the physical part didn't need to go public. I was going to protect my husband. Not any longer, since you're slandering my name. And the chiropractor report. The chiropractor told me he could tell that my story was true because there's enough damage done that force would have to be exerted. If it were a normal fall, like you used to say I tripped over the rug, that's in writing also. Now you've changed your story to say I tripped over your hip. How does one trip over someone's hip? It's fairly high off the ground. Ludicrous. So at any rate, he claimed if I would have tripped over the rug, which was your story at the moment, there would have been a certain amount of force exerted, just my body weight times gravity. And there was far more force than that exerted. You had the palm of your hand on my chest and you shoved me straight down, just like you did to Barry, Daryl's son, the night he accidentally hit you in the face with the rubber band. There were probably 15 witnesses in the room that night. And secondly, your recording. Thank you for sharing that recording with me. Trying to hide your sin in plain sight won't work. Anybody with a brain can tell the screams that I let out had nothing to do with tripping on a rug, nor tripping on your hip. They were screams of betrayal, of devastation, of I couldn't breathe and I was scared. And you certainly did not say, "Oh, honey, here, let me help you up." Just like an older brother who hits his baby sister, and then the baby sister starts screaming, and the big brother says, "Uh-oh, mom's gonna hear. Shut the baby up. Shut the baby up." That's exactly what you did. You knew my screams would be audible for the rest of the campus, so you said, "Cindy, what are you doing?" Yes, sir, you're going to be publicly shamed for your atrocious behavior when all you had to do was say, "Honey, I'm sorry I was rough with you," just like you did the night in bed. I'll be happy to pay half your bills. I have a right to go to the doctor when I can't breathe. I needed to make sure that nothing was broken. And they also tested me for internal bleeding. And when I told them it might have been my fault because I was raging at you and swearing and trying to grab your phone because you were recording me against my wishes, he said, "Cindy, nobody deserves a body slam." He could have just walked out of the door like he claims he was trying to do. He claims I was blocking the door. However, he was between me and the door. And yes, you can hear the bell fall. That's when he was slamming me, and something on me must have hit the bell and it fell to the floor. You can also tell he's lying when he says, "Cindy, don't throw the chair at me." And I said, "I'm not." He does that quite often, trying to frame me. That's why he had the recorder going. Not because he wanted to reconcile with his wife, but because he wanted to frame me, get something on me. All he can get on me is that I have a temper. And that's his goal. Fourthly, you have no evidence whatsoever, nor do I have any history whatsoever of making up stories such as physical abuse against a husband that I was trying to reconcile with and loved dearly. I have never, ever made up stories like that. You, on the other hand, have tons of written evidence that you were trying to hurt me, that you were trying to slander me, that you do have a history of lying. Period. So let's talk about this recording thing. Why was Cindy so angry? Why was Cindy flipping out? So Dr. Hovind started recording our conversations in a marriage counseling session without telling me, in secret. I thought we were in a legitimate marriage counseling session where we would be working on our marriage. It turned out I ended that marriage counseling session curled up in a ball on the couch, sobbing my eyes out. He obfuscated. In fact, that's the first time the word obfuscation was brought to my attention by the marriage counselor himself. He said, Cindy, he obfuscates everything. He will not allow you to make a valid point. This is who he is. He will not change. You need to just basically love it or leave it. And he said that while Dr. Hovind was in the bathroom. So at the end of the marriage counseling session, Dr. Hovind reveals the fact that he had recorded it all, and neither of us knew it. I said to the counselor, did you know you were being recorded? He said, no, I didn't know. At the time, I thought that was illegal, and at the very least, a violation of, it felt like an emotional betrayal. I thought we were there for real. Apparently he was there in preparation of what he's doing right now. Publicly humiliate me so that he can look like the victim, so that he'd had no participation in the divorce. He's just got another bad woman. Poor Kent Hovind. I'm going to go find another wife. She's a trashy one. So anyway, now I found out Alabama is a one consent state. If you are party to a conversation, you may record it without the other person's consent. However, I didn't know that at the time. I thought he was violating my rights, that I had told him, no, you do not have my consent, and he was recording me anyway. And then I had, on top of that, the betrayal that I felt from that marriage counseling session where he recorded it. Additionally, when we got home from that marriage counseling session, I discovered he had given Steve, the famous tech guy Steve, a key to our house, which I had specifically told Dr. Hovind I do not want Steve having a key to our house. He gave Steve the key to the house to change the lock on the spare bedroom where all my things were, so that I couldn't sleep in there anymore, because Dr. Hovind has a narcissistic injury when his wife won't sleep with him. And he makes a big deal out of this. And actually, you guys will get a big kick out of this. When I discovered the door was locked, I kicked it in. Oh, she's a bad Christian. She's a bad Christian. Oh my gosh, I heard it for that one. She's dangerous. She's going to hurt me. Yeah. Anyway, so yes, being recorded was a very bad taste in my mouth. And when I asked Dr. Hovind to turn off the recorder, and he wouldn't, even if I didn't have that bad taste in my mouth, if you were recording someone and they told you to turn it off, wouldn't you have the love and the respect to turn it off and say, okay, hey, we'll talk about this later. Or, hey, let's get a third party in here or whatever. Are you going to hold the phone over her head and say, nah, I'm recording you even though you don't want to, and watch her get angrier and angrier? Is that how you treat someone you love? Is that how you treat someone that you want to reconcile with? The betrayal was huge. I wanted to reconcile. He obviously didn't. And so it was like sticking a knife in me. So that's why Cindy was so angry and out of control. Because he had been doing this recording thing. Like somebody asked on Robert Beatty's site today, what kind of a husband would have 600 recordings of his wife? Thank you. Very good question. Because he's been preparing this court case for a stinking year. So that he can make me look bad, which makes him look innocent. Innocent. Poor Dr. Hovind. He got another bad wife. Sorry, guys. The common denominator is him. And yes, I've had 3 divorces too. But narcissism is not something that a human being can live with. And he has it bad. He's a textbook case. And it's not just plain narcissism, it's malignant narcissism. He likes watching people hurt. He was smiling when I was getting angrier and angrier. And that was not an isolated incident. I have a couple of times where I said to him, you're smiling. Malignant narcissism and sadism, I would say, are similar. Thank you, AJ, for helping me. God bless you guys. And I do want to make it clear that I have not lost my faith. Jesus is all that's keeping me up right now. Okay, God bless you guys. Bye.
Okay, for this next section of the video, I'm going to be looking at some of the evidence that Cindy sent me, and this is just a fraction of it. There's quite a bit more, but for the purpose of brevity, I'm just showing the highlights here. Now, this is the printout from Monroe County Hospital, and it shows that it has Cindy's name on it, and 488 Pearl Lane is the address of Dinosaur Adventureland, so this shows that this was when she was living there. And you can see here that the diagnosis shows assault by strike and chest pain. I'm not sure what this first one is. And this is just a closer view of that. And this is the bill from the hospital. And on the larger form, it does show that Cindy is the one that paid all of these. So also, this is the separate bill from the chiropractor's office, and you can see here that all of the payments were done by Cindy. So when it says, when Hovind tries to say that he's going to pay half of her bill, $1,000, if she simply signs a piece of paper that says that he didn't actually body slam her, you know, that's him just trying to get a confession out of her. But it seems to me that she's already paid for the medical treatment. And here we have a testimony from Cindy's friend. Cindy was really hurt, and the professional she saw proves her injuries were not done by herself, but were done as she said they were. Still, Hovind garnered support for him against Cindy for acting quote-unquote crazy and even doing the injuries herself, which is what Kent claimed, when it was impossible for her to do so. It's a miracle that anybody, after living through what she has dignity still, strength and beauty, and a fighting good spirit no one can steal. And I would agree with that. And here we have Kent's side of the story. It says, Cindy, there was no rug, and I never said you tripped on one. Okay. You were out of control and lunging at me to get my phone. And if she was trying to get his phone, the reason of that is that he was continuously recording her. I did not body slam you. The entire incident from start to finish is 100% your fault, but since I've known you, you seem incapable of ever admitting wrong or taking blame. That sounds a lot more like Kent to me than Cindy. You were cursing and screaming, and I was just trying to get away, but you kept blocking me, because you keep telling the false story about me body slamming you, and people usually believe the women in cases like this. I am putting the entire audio of the event on a secure site and will simply send a link to anyone who inquires or to any group you tell your story to. There are scores of verses about lying and confessing sin to God for forgiveness, and I pray you do this one day over this incident. Your lie to blame me will only harm the cause of Christ and yourself. You have this false image of yourself that you are a descendant of Abe Lincoln who never lies, and you sure do gymnastics to avoid responsibility to maintain your image. Keep lying about me, and I'll post the entire 200 hours of your screaming, cursing, using God's name in vain, and acting very unladylike and Christian. I wish you would drop it, sign the simple confession on just this one issue and try to rebuild a relationship, but my experience with you tells me that you probably will not. Sad face. I have a ministry and people waiting for a tour right now, of course. I had a loving wife, but she got distracted with money and cares of this world and houses and lands. Sign that paper and it can start over. I'll give you till Friday. So this is an ultimatum and basically a threat. And we also have a threat here about releasing the 200 hours of recording. I don't know what kind of husband has 200 hours of recordings of his wife, but I can personally say that I don't think it's true that Kent would release the audio of the incident, because I've actually listened to the audio. I have it right here, and I'm not going to play it because I don't think that would be appropriate to release to the public right now. All I can say is the audio is harrowing and very hard to listen to, and Cindy is literally wailing in pain during it. It's not something that I want other people to have to listen to, but I suppose if it comes down to it, maybe we will have to release it. But honestly, this seems more like the type of thing that should be submitted to the police or a lawyer rather than put on YouTube.
I would like to give some back story to why I got so angry that Dr. Hovind was recording me. Why I didn't just walk away or do something reasonable instead of screaming the way I did. So, our very first marriage counseling session, Dr. Hovind secretly recorded. And at the end of the session, it came out that he had been recording the whole thing. And I asked the marriage counselor if he knew that Dr. Hovind was recording it. And he said, no, I didn't know we were being recorded. And at the time, I thought that was illegal to record without consent. And during the body slam incident, I think I still believed that recording without my consent, and obviously against my consent, was illegal. But at the very least, it felt violating and unethical and completely contrary to my heart, which was to have a discussion with my husband, trying to get understanding and reconciliation, as opposed to his obvious motive, which was to gather evidence for a future court date. That was very upsetting to me, very offensive, and I sensed the phoniness. The way he was holding the recorder over my head so that I couldn't reach it. When I asked him to turn it off, a loving husband would be more reasonable than that. Anyway, I still do wish that I would have done something more reasonable, like walk away, but at the time I wasn't ready to walk away from my husband. I didn't see all the writing on the wall yet. The writing's getting uglier and uglier the more I gather evidence. In addition to the marriage counseling session being recorded against my knowledge and against my wishes, when we got home from the marriage counseling session, Dr. Hovind had allowed Steve a key to our house. Also against my express wishes. I had told Doc not that long ago that I did not want Steve having a key to our house. So he gave Steve a key to the house, and Steve came in while we were gone at marriage counseling and changed the lock on the spare room. Dr. Hovind has always been very upset if I don't sleep in his bed. And when I'm in the spare room, he's very upset. And so he had Steve come in the house and change the lock on that door so that I could no longer go in there. For the record, that was not the first time he'd tried to prevent me from sleeping in there. On one occasion, he threatened to kick me out of the house at 11 o'clock at night if I didn't sleep in his bed. There's a sheriff's report about that, because I had to find out from the sheriff that it would not be legal for him to kick me out of the marriage home. Thank God. And then on another occasion, Dr. Hovind turned a water hose, a garden hose, onto the bed in that room so that I couldn't sleep in the spare room. Yes, he's not who you think he is. Unfortunately, it took me a very long time. It's something called cognitive dissonance, where you can't believe what you're seeing because you're already believing something else that you saw when someone has two personalities. You don't want to give up the good personality that you were madly in love with and became one flesh with and had your dream come true with. But ultimately you have to realize that that one person is attached to another person, and the other person is not someone you can live with, or, anyway, thank you. Bye.